Okay, so today we're looking at Module 3, Lesson 17. So first things first, make sure you've got your aim up there written exactly how you need it. Kipsters will be able to plot very small and very large rational numbers on the coordinate plane. So in our do now, we had some pretty reasonable numbers. These were not very small or very large. And as you can see, I've labeled mine A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so that way it can make it a little easier for you to check your do now today. So let's go ahead and take a look here. On this do now, I've got my points plotted, and I'll try to arrange my camera so that way this is easiest for you to see. There we go. So if you take a look, here's some of the first points we have there. I've got point A plotted at 3, 2, so over 3, up 2. I have point B, I believe that's 8, 4, so I went 8 to the right and 4 up, and then I continue on from there. The only one you might have trouble seeing is down here on the bottom. Down here you can see point D all the way down there, and then I'll move my camera here so you can see point G, the last point. It's over there on the last line because it was 10, negative 2. So all the way to the right, 10, that's our last line, and negative 2. And point G actually is a good place to start a discussion today because it's on the last line. What would have happened if one of our coordinates would have instead have been, oh, I don't know, 11, 20? There's no way this coordinate would fit on this coordinate plane because we can only go as big as 10. So we're going to talk about how we can do that easily today. So if you need to, go back, pause, rewatch that section, make sure you've got your do now checked as thoroughly as you can, and then I'm going to move on here into the actual lesson for today. And today, let's go ahead and take a look at these numbers. So the first thing it asks us to do is to take this set of numbers at the top of the page and put them in this table down to the right. So let's try this first one. So I can see in my first coordinate, here's my x, here's my y. So for my first point, I know that I have x as negative 4, so let's go ahead and put this in our table. X is negative 4, and my y value is 20. If you can, try to fill in the rest quicker than what I will do in the video, so you can save yourself some time. But then I have negative 3, 35. I have 1, negative 35. I have 6 and 10, and I have, oh, maybe you can't see, and I have 9, negative 40. So, we have a lot of numbers that are bigger and smaller than 10. So let's start with, number 2 says to circle the minimum and the maximum amounts here. So again, you'll see up on the page, up there, it says circle the minimum and maximum amounts. So let's start with the x. Minimum, the smallest, minimum. Looks like the smallest one I have is negative 4. The biggest one I have is 9. In my y-axis, my smallest one, it goes as far left as negative 40, and then it gets as big as 35. So I only need to get as high as about 10 for these. So for my x-axis, I can say those count by tens. So when it says right here, is a scale of 1 going to be enough for the x-axis? If yes, why? If no, what should we use instead? Well, let's write down yes. It does not go above. And what's the number we're kind of thinking about? Well, let's go back to our coordinate plane. These are huge coordinate planes. If I put my axes on here, though, if I make them as centered as I can, each time it goes about 10 high and 10 low and 10 left and 10 right. So that's all I really have to work with. So for my x-axis, I can count by ones and that's okay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That works. So over here, obviously I'd have negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10. So counting by ones, that's okay. That's because none of these go above or below 10 or negative 10, respectively. So let's look at y. Okay, well, if I go by 10 for the y-axis, this is the only number that's going to fit. Because I have to go bigger than 10 for 20, bigger than 10 for 35, bigger than negative 10 for negative 35, and same thing for negative 40. So this is the only point that would fit if we counted by 1. So when it says, is a scale of 1 going to be enough for the y-axis? If yes, y. If no, what should we use? Well, hey, there's no way it's going to fit. There's no way. So we need to count by a bigger number than ones. So go ahead and think, first, what would be a good number for us to count by? Maybe if we skip counted by 5s or 10s, that might work. I'm going to go ahead and give 10s a shot here. So I'm going to say, this is 0. And I'm going to skip 1 and do 10. Skip 1, do 20. Skip 1, do 30. Make sure I skipped every time, yes. Skip 1, do, I guess I could do 40 here. And so then you just have to make sure you skip count the exact same way every time. So here's 0, skip 1, negative 10. Skip 1, negative 20. Skip 1, negative 30. Skip 1, negative 40. Make sure I didn't miss anything there. Looks like I've got everything matched up just fine. But it looks like maybe I don't have my axes right in the center. Just make sure you've done maybe a little bit neater job than I have here. Looks like everything's neat up there. And so let's actually start to plot these points. What I would do if I were you right now is I would take your axes, see if you can pause the video, plot the points yourself, or go back and rewatch to make sure you've got your scales the right way, and then see what you can do. Again, as a reminder, the x-axis has to all be the same, and the y-axis has to be all the same. The two of them don't have to match each other because we have one. We can see that we have 1s here and we have 10s here. They don't have to match, but I can't have one thing on the left side and one thing on the right. I have to make sure my x-axis matches. I have to make sure my y-axis matches itself. So now let's actually look at where these points are. So my first point, negative 4, 20. I'm going to go over 4 up to 20. So there's the point negative 4, comma 20. Next one, negative 3, comma 35. So it means go left 3, up, well, here's 30. It looks like I count by 5s every line, so here is 35. It is between 40 and 30. So here is negative 3, comma 35. So we've got 2 of our points done. If you think you've made a mistake, pause, try to correct your mistakes, then come back and check. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So the next point I have here is 1, negative 35. So we go over 1 down to 30, but then negative 35 is halfway between. So there I would have 1, negative 35. And then finally, my last one, 9, negative 40, means I'm going to go right 9. Make sure I can fit this one in here. Means I'm going to go right 9 and down 40. That's almost my last line here. And here I am at 9, negative 40. So again, if there's something you missed as I went over that, go back, rewatch it, pause it as you need to, see what you can do. So this is all stretch 1 that we just completed. What I'd urge you to do, go ahead and go through and complete stretch 2 on your own and see if you can pick the right scale. So go through, look at stretch 2 here on your own and see if you can pick the right scale for that one. Again, I'm going to urge you to pause the video, try to complete it on your own, come back in about 2 or 3 minutes and see if you have the same thing. Because when I come back to this video, I'm going to go through it kind of quickly. So go through, try to do it on your own, and then come back, check it with the video. Alright, so the first thing I did was I took my values and I put them in my table. So I obviously first have 0.1, comma 4. Then I have 0.5, comma 7. Negative 0.7, negative 5, negative 0.4, comma 3, and then finally 0.8, comma 1. So this time it's not very large numbers, it's pretty small. And it looks like my y-axis, I can count by 1s and be okay there. So let's go ahead and get to that. So I've got my y-axis made, I've got my x-axis made, and for my y's, I'm going to go by 1s. I'm going to go ahead and say that's okay. And I'm just going to kind of quickly do this. Instead of labeling every single one, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 10. Same thing down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then obviously negative 10 is the last one. So it's just kind of a faster way you can label them by just doing up 5, then up 10, same thing here, but down 5, down 10. So then let's take a look at our x numbers. X numbers are really small this time. They're all in tenths. So I'm going to count, might make sense to count by tenths here. So I'm going to do that in the following fashion. I'm going to say, okay, well, this must be, I'm going to say 1/10 right here. I'm going to make my lines a little heavier so you can see where my axes are. This is going to be 0.1. So I mean negative 1/10 is right over here. Now I don't have to label every one. I know that's what they're worth. So that would mean 1, 2, I guess 2, 3, 4. Here's 5/10 on the fifth line. And here's negative 5/10 over here. That means negative 1 is the last line. Positive 1 is the last line to the right. So again, positive 1, last line to the right. Negative 1, last one here. So if you didn't get your scales right, go back, fix them, pause this video, and try to plot them correctly this time with the correct scales. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and move forward and try to plot these on my own pretty quick here. So let's see. 0.1, 4. Well, that means go right 1/10 and up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there I can see, let me do that one more time. Over 1/10, up 1, 2, 3, 4. There is 0.1, 4. 0.1, 4. My next point is 5/10 and then 7. 5/10 and 7. So here I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/10 up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 0.5, 7. I'm just going to go ahead and plot the rest of these points on here. I'm going to move pretty quick to it. So I have negative 7, negative 5. This means I go over 7/10 and down to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's 7/10, negative 5, all the way down there in quadrant 3. And then I guess second to last, I have negative 4/10, negative 4/10, positive 3. So I go left 4/10, up 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's my alarm saying that we're about done. Negative 0.4, 3. And then lastly, so again, that would be quadrant 4. Lastly, we have the point 8/10 and 1. So 8/10, 1. So 8/10 is almost all the way over. We're at the 8th unit mark, but we're up 1 mark. So there is 0.8, 1. Don't mark this point right here. That was a mistake. That would be 0.8, 0. But I want 0.8, 1. So go back, rewatch those videos, pause it as you need to. Make sure you've got everything you need for this lesson today. We will do the solo temp together in just a second.